Hi, this is Dr. Jacqueline Rinaldi, author, speaker, coach. Often in my research and in my teaching, I find that compassion is misunderstood. Empathy, pity, and compassion can be similar, but they're very different. So empathy is the precursor to compassion. We need accurate empathy in order to act with compassion. And I use the word accurate because if we don't have some degree of psychological wholeness, our empathy is colored by our marred lenses or by the stuff we have going on in our psyche that may not actually be what's happening over here with Jane, who I'm trying to feel empathetic towards. So, accurate empathy is the precursor to compassion. And when we feel accurate empathy, then compassion steps up and propels us to take some action to alleviate some suffering. Now, compassion is never giving away life and limb. It is never in the disease of giving too much. We don't take in every homeless person. That is the disease of giving too much. So compassion is a circle. And first we must have self-compassion. And that self-compassion is setting proper boundaries, knowing when to say yes and when to say no. If we're saying yes out of obligation, if we're volunteering at the homeless shelter out of obligation, then that's not compassion. So we know we're in compassion when we're being fed. So we would leave a situation where we gave compassion and we feel fed, we feel energized. It feeds our soul. We know we are in a situation where we're giving too much when we feel taxed when we leave the situation. It doesn't feel like the right thing to do. We gave too much. I'm thinking about my son's football game, and I didn't make that football game because I said yes to this. So then when those situations happen, the compassionate act would be for me to take care of me and go to my son's football game rather than go volunteer at the homeless shelter. And then I can say to the homeless shelter, hey, I'm unable to do it this day. How does this day or this day work for you? It's very important that in compassion, we feel a sense of being fed. That's key. Pity often arises in conversations when I'm working with people. And pity is when you come into a situation where you see a person who is in need, but you're coming from an up position. Like you're coming in to rescue or save this poor soul down here. It's kindness from an up position. So oftentimes what that creates is a resentment from the person who is in need. They feel your superiority, and that's not what we're trying to accomplish. So it's especially important for caregivers, nurses, doctors, therapists, people who work as caregivers to have a consistent self-care practice. So self-care would be the same as self-compassion. So we need to tend to our own well-being before we can tend the world. So if for any of you who are interested in reading further about compassion or empathy, a few books that were helpful for me: one, The Lost Art of Compassion by Lauren Ladner, and two, The Power of Empathy by Arthur Carmichael and Catherine Ketchikon. Both the links are listed below. In closing, I hope you learned a little bit more about compassion and empathy. Like and subscribe if this was helpful for you. And I always am open for feedback or ideas on other topics. Thanks so much.